For the second year in a row and the 10th time in total, Vienna has been named the most livable city in the world. The Austrian capital earned the top spot in the Economist Intelligence Unit's annual ranking because of its stability, robust healthcare, education system and strong infrastructure. From its rich cultural scene and culinary delights to the challenges and perks of day-to-day life, we'll be diving into the nitty-gritty of calling Vienna home. Whether you're intrigued by Vienna's historical architecture or curious about its language barriers, we've got you covered with insightful tips and experiences to help make an informed decision. This is What's Next with Maya and Danny, and if you're considering Vienna as your next home or just curious about what makes this city so special, hit that like button, subscribe to our channel and join us as we spill all the details.
Hey guys, welcome back to our channel. If you're new here, my name is Daniel and this is Maya. Today we have a special video for you, an in-depth exploration of what it's really like to live in this beautiful city of Vienna.
In this video, we're going to tell you our personal thoughts on the best and worst things about living in Vienna. Obviously, everyone else's opinions could be varied, so you can let us know in the comments what you think as well. Let's get right to it. So, things we like about living in Vienna. Number one, the culture and the history and the architecture in Vienna is second to none. If you've ever visited, the first thing that you're going to see is this beautiful European fantasy of all the architecture that's in this city. Landmarks like the Belvedere Palace, the Schönbrunn, and of course St. Stephen's Cathedral are such beautiful buildings, and most of which are UNESCO World Heritage Sites. There's all these grand Gothic and Renaissance architecture. You can literally spend all day walking around Vienna, taking in the architecture of the city, walking through parks and gardens that are just so well preserved. I think a lot of money goes into keeping these places looking really beautiful. It's crazy, after we've been living here for 2 years now, we still just walk around and we're just marveling at all the beautiful buildings.
Point number two is accessibility. So Vienna is actually not a big city compared to, for example, London. And we must say that the public transports are really good. So for example, you can use public transport for just €1 per day. In fact, the yearly pass costs just €365, which is super cheap, probably one of the cheapest in Europe. Beside that, the city of course is not that big, so it's also very easy to walk around the city and get from point A to point B. So accessibility and public transport is something that we really enjoy while living here.
Number three, English-speaking country. So predominantly in Vienna, it is rare to go somewhere where someone isn't able to speak English. So if you are a tourist in Vienna, it's very easy to communicate with the locals because most of them are speaking English. So that was really helpful for us.
Point number four is the cost of living. So it's no secret that Vienna is considered the most livable city, and this is in part due to lower rent. The salaries are also quite high in comparison to other European countries. There is also a government scheme that allows you to get a subsidized rent if you've been living in the country for the last 2 years. So the average cost of a one-bedroom apartment in the city center is around €860, which is probably half the price of London.
Point number five, the weather. So the weather in Austria, a lot of people don't actually know how hot it gets in the summer. I always personally used to think of Austria as super cold. The summers are actually really long and they can reach temperatures of up to 36 degrees. So we actually loved spending summer for the last 2 years in Vienna because it was warm, but also it's quite a windy place. So you were able to still get that cool breeze, as well as the summer being super long. It's not regularly raining. I come from obviously the UK, so when I've been here in summer, it's just such a difference to have so many long sunny days rather than just 2 weeks of summer in August. So it's been really lovely.
Point number six is the variety of activities that Vienna offers. So there is just so many things to do, ranging from street markets, going to the river. There are lots of open air swimming pools that you can really enjoy in hot summers. Lots of different parks like Prato Park, which is the biggest park in Vienna, and I usually go there for my runs. There is lots of UNESCO heritage sites and of course the Christmas markets. From November, the whole city becomes an open air Christmas market, and it's probably one of the best destinations if you love this kind of activities.
Point number 7, the food and the cafe culture. Vienna is renowned for its rich culinary traditions. Austrian cuisine features dishes like the schnitzel, which is the breaded and fried veal or pork cutlet, Sachertorte, which is this beautiful chocolate cake with apricot, and then of course the strudel. Coffee culture is deeply ingrained in Vienna with historic coffee houses, one of which we go to in our Vienna Diaries vlog called the Palmen House Cafe. And these serve as hubs for people to meet up and relax and just watch the world go by. Coffee houses, they offer such a variety of coffee options like the melange and the Viennese coffee, and they're really known for this elegant ambiance. Vienna's culinary scene blends this traditional Austrian with international influences, making it just a really kind of sought after city for people to come to who are really just big foodies.
Point number 8. This one was really one of the reasons I decided to move to Vienna, and this is the proximity that Vienna has to other major European cities. It's just right at the center of Europe, and within a few hours you can reach many different other cities in other countries. So for example, in less than an hour you can be in Bratislava, which is the capital of Slovakia. A couple of hours you can be in Budapest, the capital of Hungary. We've been a couple of times in the city of Brno, which is in Czech Republic, and it's just across the border, so really it takes you like 1.5 hours. You can easily reach Prague, München. You can get to all of these places that I just mentioned just by taking a train from the central station in Vienna. Besides that, Vienna has also a huge international airport. For example, we've been to Thailand recently, and there was a possibility to even get a direct flight Vienna to Bangkok.
Point number 9. Cleanliness. When you're walking around Vienna, you're going to find that it is one of the most cleanest cities that you've probably experienced. It's rare to see trash or anything on the streets, and the government just really encourages the preservation of public areas. In general, every time that we leave the city and come back through the airport, I'm so happy to return because I always feel like the airport looks so clean, and then as you're making your way towards the city centre, it just feels like everything's very well kept and modern.
Okay, this is our final point. Point number 10. Vienna is a safe city. Me and Maya, in the last 2 years, we always felt really safe, and we never had any issues even coming back home like really late at night. Sometimes it also happened to Maya to come back quite late by herself, and she never felt threatened or in any kind of dangerous situations. There is a lot of police around, and even sometimes when there is some trouble, when you see some drunk people, many policemen straight away arrive to the scene and everything just stops there. So I think these days is a very good reason to consider moving to Vienna.
So now we've talked about the things that we do like about living in Vienna, and after 2 years there's obviously going to be some small things that we haven't found that agreeable. So we do have a list of 10 things that we dislike about living in Vienna.
It was quite hard to find 10 reasons, but still, if you disagree with us, of course, feel free to comment down below.
So things we dislike about living in Vienna. Number 1, supermarkets and retail have limited opening times and they close completely on a Sunday. So we found this to be quite difficult coming from the UK and knowing that you can go for a food shop on Sunday and be able to access and buy the things that you need. But here they do have this kind of hard and fast rule in order to preserve the Austrian quality of life, and they do make kind of exceptions closer to the Christmas holiday so that people can go out on a Sunday and shop. But in general, I always feel like I would like to go to the supermarket on Sunday, or I would like to go shopping, but there just isn't that option. And then restaurants are open, of course, but if you do find yourself here on a weekend, you just need to make sure that if you need anything like toiletries or food, that you go on Saturday and you have to go there before it closes around 6 or 8.
Point number 2 is Taxes. Austria has one of the highest taxation in the European Union. So if you earn between 32,000 up to 64,000, expect to pay more than 40% in taxes. Also, not to mention that healthcare is not free. A part of it will be deducted from your salary as well. If you're moving here with a high paying salary, expect to pay really, really big taxes here.
So point number 3, bureaucratic procedures. So we had major issues when we first moved here, especially for me as a non-EU citizen. In general, even asking around to locals, everyone knows that the bureaucratic procedures are particularly difficult. There's a lot of strict rules, and especially for foreigners. So we mentioned about Vienna being an English-speaking country, but then we'd find when we go to these government buildings, there was very limited English, and we did ask our colleagues and asked around, and people said, yeah, this is very common, and it just felt so backwards that the most important place that you need to visit and that you need to communicate didn't have people that were speaking very good English. So, I mean, it did take me almost a year to get a residency permit, and it turned out that during that whole time I was applying for the wrong thing. In the end, we really had to kind of fight our case, demand that we go in and speak to someone that was English speaking, and we managed to solve my residency permit, which was actually pretty straightforward, seeing as we're married and I would get a permit on the basis of Danny being an EU citizen. So this was a really difficult experience for us, and we've heard so many other people have the same thing.
Point number 4, the variety of stuff in supermarkets. So we have noticed that compared to the supermarkets, for example, in the UK, here in Austria, you don't have many international foods, like for example, Asian or Indian. Also, there is a lack of healthcare, so it's not sold in the supermarket, but just in the apotheke, which is the pharmacy. So it's a different area that you need to go. So let's say that if you're in need of some medicines, you cannot go to your local supermarket. You need to go to a pharmacy, which sometimes can be far away or can be even closed.
Point number 5, limited nightlife. So we found since being here, we have only been to a select number of clubs, and in general those either host kind of mainstream music or heavy techno. There just doesn't seem to be that variety, especially when it comes to different types of music. On a weekend we want to go to a club, but there's either these big clubs that you have to pay so much money to get into, or there's these very smaller places that are maybe overcrowded. Of course, they have the opera, and they have a lot of classical music influence, but if that's not your style of music and you want something different, then we found it difficult to come by.
So point number 6 is job opportunities if you are not German speaking person. The majority of jobs that you see on LinkedIn or on other websites are for German speaking. So if you're coming from other countries and you're choosing to live in Vienna, there are not that many job opportunities where you can just speak in English. There are still few. So for example, myself and Maya, we work in international companies where it's fine for you just not knowing German and communicate in English. So this is something important to keep in mind, which is interesting for an English-speaking country like Austria.
Point number 7, the wind. So the wind in winter is extreme. I have never felt anything like it. There is often gale force winds that literally disallow you to get from A to B. These really strong winds can start anytime from around November all the way up until April, and everyone knows Vienna to be a very windy city. So sometimes people actually just stay indoors when it's weather this bad, which can be pretty scary.
Point number 8, experiences that we had in restaurants. So we need to say that we had quite a few experiences where we went to a restaurant and the waiting staff was quite rude and very demanding, especially when it comes to tips, for example. So it's very important to consider that there is no service charge including in the bill, so it's always recommended to tip the waiter. Here, the waiters, they're actually asking you how much you want to tip them, and if they dislike how much you're offering. They're always kind of rude with you, especially when you go to the typical Austrian restaurant. So it never happened to us when we go to, for example, like Asian restaurants or Italian restaurants. It never happened to us that the waiting staff was so rude, and we're not the only one. It's actually quite known that in restaurants here in Vienna you can have such experiences.
Point number 9, crowds. So after Vienna has been voted the most livable city for 2 years in a row, obviously that's going to have an impact on tourism. So we have noticed, compared to our first year of living here, it has got much busier, especially in touristy places. So this is a bit of a negative for us, because often that means that it's difficult to get around, or you really have to book in advance if you want to reserve a popular restaurant, which isn't always great if you just wanted to be spontaneous.
Point number 10, the increasing prices in the city of Vienna. Even though we mentioned earlier that still Vienna is quite affordable, but I think given that Vienna has been voted already a couple of times the most livable city in the world, many people are moving to Vienna and rents are actually going up. So for example, our rent also went up by 100 euro this year. Obviously Vienna is gaining popularity, and the more demand there is to live in Vienna, of course all the other prices will rise. So if you're considering moving to Vienna, expect that it might not be that affordable like it seems in general. So this is everything for now. I hope you enjoyed hearing out 10 things that we liked about Vienna and 10 that we dislike about Vienna.
So whether you're looking to move or you were just feeling nosy about what it's really like to live in Vienna, I hope that our opinions were valuable to you.
Of course, this video is about our personal opinion and personal experience about Vienna. Please make sure to comment down below if you had a different experience and if you agree or disagree with some of our points. Thank you very much for watching. Make sure to like this video and subscribe to our channel, and we'll see you in the next one.